Okay. So what I will do is a recap from last week so that we kind of talk about what you all did once I get my thing set up here somehow. That's good enough. All right. So last week we really set up the characters. We set up their connections. We talked about the city. We figured out who they were and why they were together, really. And we set up the kind of neighborhood and we set up different connections for them in Agrella. So we really kind of tied the characters together, tied the characters to Agrella, tied the characters to they are, what they were doing, that sort of thing, and went from there. So what I have you do is kind of describe your characters to Mr. Hitachi. I don't know if you've done that yet, and we'll go from there. Lorik, why don't you describe Pike?
Right. Pike is a completely friendly, very happy fella. He is an Agrellan native, grew up in the city, raised in the city, loves the city. In terms of appearance, he's not super tall. Like, he's a fairly average height fella, but kind of lanky, but kind of built lanky. Definitely looks like the kind of fella that if you were walking down an alleyway at nighttime and he stepped around the corner, you'd assume you were being mugged. I'm sure he's nice enough.
This is somewhat what Pike looks like. Fix my thing. Tristan, how about you?
Anif is tall. He's Ambrian, so he's not from Agrella. He has a little bit of hick accent. Pretty solid guy. Durable, if you will. He's a Templar in training. He works out of, what was the place we were talking? There's like 3 or 4 aisles I could never remember. Oh, right, Pike Isle.
Yeah.
Pine Isle.
Pine Isle, right.
Pine Isle.
There you go.
I'm Pike. This isn't my isle. I just live here.
Yeah, he works out of the Pine Isle Sun Church. Pine Isle Church. Right.
Correct.
And Joe, you there? Might be having trouble connecting. Pike has a connection. We established a connection. Oddly, he's connected somehow to Baggy, like an auntie. Baggy is a alchemist healer on Pine Island, which is the kind of one of the poorest islands right next to the cauldron. And so Pine Island is here on the bottom of the map, and the cauldron is kind of this swampland that was taken over and reconfigured. And he knows this. One of the Troika, one of the leaders of Pine Islands, is called Baggy, and he has a connection with Baggy because she helped him when he's an orphan, that sort of thing. Daynif has a connection on Mariner's Court with a man named Holger, a one-armed inn. He owns an inn on Mariner's Court, and they know each other from past lives. Both Daynif and Holger came here at some point. Holger probably before him, and Holger gave him one of his first rooms. Joe, you there? I think Joe is having trouble. Joe's character is Vulgaris, who's this old goblin, and he's from Pine Island also. He's trying to prove himself, and he has a connection, childhood friend with Icinia, who's one of the captains of the guard, and she used to live with them lived next door to him before the goblin on Pine Island, before she made her way, really, and became one of the captains of the guard. But she always knows and goes out of her way to, when she sees him, to greet him, and warmly, really, because she was small and young when they knew each other. And so Thralgar, right? Thalgar.
That'll go. Yeah, something like that.
Thalgar, yeah. So what we did was we actually did some random rolls to determine connections. So roll me a d20, 1d20. Well, yeah, roll me a 1d20, one, and then that makes sense. Roll me another d20. Okay. And why don't you describe your character, where he's from, why he happened to be in Agrella? Why is Agrella his city, or why has it become his city? And maybe a little of his background. as much as you think you have ready.
I think he has walked a long walk from his temple, from the other monks to try and find people to recruit, and
Okay.
I think that might be one of the reasons he's around here. And he's bald, lightly dressed, looks like a monk, walks like a monk, has staff. Yeah, a lot of tattoos around on his body. But he's a honorable man and sees himself as a trustworthy guy.
And so he knows these three. Pike, who's a Ambrian-born Agrella. He was born in Agrella. Bulgaris, who's a goblin who was born also in Agrella. Pike is really from one of the next isle over, always home based in there, which is here in Cyprio, and Bulgaris is obviously from Pine Island, and Danif, who's this Ambrian Templar in training, Ambrian Templar. Why do you think Thalgar would have met them or have joined up with them? They really, if I remember correctly, they really are not necessarily a merchant group, but they're a group for hire that does a lot of odd jobs. They guard caravans. They, do what's needed to make corn. Why do you think Thalgar's with them in Pine Island, shares rooms with them in the same neighborhood called Robelo? How did he hook up with them? Really, or why do you think that is?
I just want to add that he is barbarian origin, so I believe he nobody could take care of him as a child, so the monks took him with them to the temple and trained him. And
okay.
I've been trying to recruit these guys for a long time. I still do. And I figure out I need to make some money to survive, so I just stick with them to do some odd jobs. And once in a while, I still try to recruit them.
That's reasonable. Everyone tries to recruit everyone. Maybe he hasn't had much luck with Danif, given he's a Templar of the church, but he's still trying.
Still trying.
Thalgar knows Delano, who's a second master of the Cyprio Collegium. So every neighborhood has a collegium, and they're kind of like this people in charge, like local government. And for whatever reason, he knows Delano, the second master of the Cyprio Collegium. And he met him in some way when he shared a room with him, either in his travels or as Delano was coming to Cyprio. When Delano was a novice. So you've met him quite some time, and it's probable that Delano helped you get set up in the city, or, at least found your room, or a room on Pine Island, which is in the Robelo neighborhood. But Delano, and he's the second master of the Cyprio Collegium, just so you know. Joe, you there? Joe, you having audio problems?
I just wanted to add that I picked you might have seen it, but I picked Arch Enemy and Impulsive as the burdens.
Okay, I'll get to Arch Enemy eventually, and I probably won't get to Arch Enemy at the moment yet, but I will get to Arch Enemy soon, or figure out how Arch Enemy plays into that.
Just have to watch my mouth with Impulsive.
Right. So last session, we kind of set up the characters. We discussed their composition, or why they were in. They're based out of Pine Island at a neighborhood called Robelo. For whatever reason, you've worked together a number of times, and you kind of got this nascent or burgeoning business together where you find jobs as a group, sometimes odd jobs, sometimes you're just guarding merchants, sometimes it's, that sort of thing. And then you went to the celebration of your neighborhood, or of the Robelo neighborhood, and they're celebrating their patron saint. Every neighborhood has their patron saint, and Robelo's patron saint is Alano, who's this old myth over 100 years ago in old Alberator, who used to be a blackguard and a mystic. And Alano is a patron saint of the Robelo neighborhood. The group went to the first kind of festivity of this festival and a little kind of neighborhood festival in Robelo, and they played a game of FireBring, which is this game where two teams try to light the torches on the other side of their competitors. There's a central torch that is burning, and on either side of two teams, the 5 members have 5 torches on either side, and they got to fight for this lit torch and try to take it over to the other team's torches and light them on. And the neighborhood of Robelo, through Pike, Daneth, and Vulgaris, trounced a guest group from a block or two away. And during the game of FireBring, Pike may have cheated a little bit, but there are no rules. And if you can't figure out that someone like Pike would cheat, then that's your own problem. But the Robelo team pretty much trounced the other team. They didn't even score any. And at the end, when the other team knew they were going to lose, they just decided all to attack Pike because they figured it was all over anyways. And so there was a brawl. Really, there was a brawl. And realistically, the group comported themselves pretty well and demonstrated that not only are they good at FireBring, but they're also good at brawling. And they came out on top of the brawl too. And we ended the session where the group was leaving the main kind of square of the neighborhood. Every neighborhood has a little square, and they're going back to their tenement block. And each tenement block has like a middle. The buildings kind of ring it, and in the center, in the backyard, is this kind of shared space where they have chickens and tables and a fire pit, and they're going back for festivities in their neighborhood of Robelo, in their little tenement block. Each of you live either together or have your own separate room, and see if that is true. And so we left it off when they were just leaving this game of FireBring. The other competitors are throwing dark eyes, and one of them is completely knocked out because, if I remember correctly, Pike just knocked the snot out of him and was completely unconscious. And, so they're getting dark looks, and they know they've made enemies of this other group on the other side, and we left off there.
I left him a beer.
You left him a beer. I forget. I think someone tried to drink the beer. Vulgaris, I think.
Yeah. He did take 12 points of bludgeoning damage to the face.
On a single hit, really. So, Miss Thalgar, you were there, but you didn't participate in the game. I'm just curious if Thalgar is a betting man.
No, he's not.
No. So he wouldn't have bet on the outcome of the event.
No, I don't think he would.
Okay. Now, I got to ask, because I don't know. Pike, how much money do you have in your disposal? Are you pitch broke, or do you actually have some thaler or coins left? Pike, you there?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I was trying to figure out who the question was for. I am pitch broke.
You have nothing.
Yeah, I spent all of my character's starting gold on equipment.
Okay.
I went
So
privileged, and
Pike has to, steal, cheat, or ask for favors because he has nothing.
Yeah, like my drinks tonight were the free drinks for winning.
Right. You're at the festival because you have nowhere else to go. It's free food and free drink, and you can't pay for your own. Have you been going hungry?
No. This is Pike is used to living on the breadline, so to speak. Money comes and goes. He doesn't believe in the hoarding of wealth. Why have currency if not to spend it?
Yeah, I'm almost positive he knows where all the soup kitchens are too, and when the church is giving out free bread.
Probably, but he also would have donated in flush times.
Okay.
He is a self-respecting man of poverty.
Is he mooching off the others?
Yeah. The self-respect only goes so far.
His people. Daneth, how much money do you have?
13 thaler.
And where do you keep that, or how much do you usually travel with?
Well,
regularly, like if you're out on a day, that sort of thing.
I usually have a little pouch that I tuck under my medium armor, and I usually carry all of it with me. Although I might put a couple of coins in my boots,
Okay.
My thing is,
Just in
I'm
case,
never
'cause
really going to
you
need
are-
to spend more than 3 thaler at a time, so I probably stash the other 10 thaler because, I'm a bit
Ah,
defensive
okay.
minded, and I've come to realize, places like Agrella can be magnets for thieves.
Yeah, maybe Pike's poorness is leeching on you. How does Danif does that give him? Does he mind with that, or is it just
Do I mind that Pike is poor?
yeah? Like,
No,
has he helped Pike out, or is he just
I
left
come
him
from
on
the
his own?
boonies. Where I come from, Pike is well off. Like, I'm used to farmers and craftsmen that are, barely making ends meet in a village where the cost of living is really not high at all. So, like Pike's a standard of living is kind of a step up from where I'm from, so it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it's worth noting. Pike isn't like he doesn't have no money, never has money. He has no money currently because he has spent it all enjoying life.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a little weird to Danif because, he's not used to the idea of this like constant flow of money. Where he grew up, that was not really a thing. So that kind of weirds him out. But it is what it is. I mean, as long as Pike isn't hurting anyone, it's none of Danif's business what he does.
Yeah, Pike has friends that will cover his drinks because he's bought them drinks before.
Thalgar, how much cash do you have on hand? How much coin do you have on hand in general?
At the moment, I have my 5 thaler.
5 thaler. And where does Thalgar
Yeah.
keep his 5 thaler? Is it always on him, or does he parse it out? Does he hide some of it?
He has it. He has. Some reason he has it on a little purse on the end of his staff.
Okay. Is there a bell in there?
Yeah, there's a bell in there.
All right. So he has $5. Joe, you there?
Olga really doesn't believe in money, but he knows he needs them sometimes.
Yeah, he has to pay for
So
something.
some places where he gets food for free.
Oh, has Pike taught him where the best food kitchens and soup kitchens are?
No, I think it's more people have respect for the monks maybe, but not in this town, I guess. So he figured out he had to make some money to get food here.
Okay. See, Joe, do you hear us? Oh, wait, he's sending me a message. Let me see what he says. 3 thaler. Joe has 3 thaler. I imagine Vulgaris keeps that 3 thaler on him. Okay. I'm gonna have to double time. All right. So you all leave the main square. You get some dark looks from the 2 or 3, the FireBring team from a couple blocks over who you've demolished and then beat up after they tried to, take their frustrations on Pike, who cheated. And you go to your kind of tenement building. Really, it's made of wood. You're in Pine Island, so it's pretty poor. There's holes in the wall, and it's drafty, and the stairs are rickety and probably only has half a banister. You kind of squeeze between 2 buildings, like your building's on the right, and there's another building on the left. It's about 3 floors high. There's probably 4 or 5 rooms on each level. And you squeeze between the 2 buildings. Everyone's squeezing through the buildings to get to the back square because there's, 7, 8 buildings who share this square that ring this square, and there's a little bit of space, and you kind of squeeze back there for your festivities of your block in Robelo. And there's a big table laid out with food, and there's some minstrels or singers and like it's a triplet, a guy with a lute and another one with a little hand drum, and then a singer that's from your neighborhood itself who's singing in the side, and there's these kind of long tables, and you all kind of sit at this big wooden sturdy table in your square. There's a tiny keg in there that's been brought over by the local bar, the famous bar on the corner, and so he brings in this tiny little pony keg, and he slaps all those who are playing FireBring, Vulgaris, Pike, Danif, and he probably brings you drinks, and and is laughing. I'm pulling up my notes here just a second. And he looks at all of you and says, well, boys, that was a bludgeoning in FireBring. I haven't seen that. That was just fantastic. You all made me 15 thaler. And he goes, well, I don't need all of it. So here, he gives each of you a thaler, Vulgaris, a pike, and Danith, because he's just absolutely happy that you slaughtered the other team in FireBring. Let me pull up my notes here for a second. Sorry, multitasking. And he is the owner of the Cockerel, which is the corner tavern, a popular haunt for residents and place to socialize and exchange gossip. And, his name is Horasto, and his son was the captain of the FireBring team. And he slaps you on the back and gives you a thaler each. And because, he made 12 thaler off you, and he thinks that was absolutely fantastic. Any of you say anything to Horasto before he leaves?
Thank you kindly, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
You sit down at this big table, and this woman called Fiona, a third called Fiona, gets up and says a prayer to Theos. It's very pious. Everyone quiets down. And then after she's done, the fiddlers start taking up the fiddle, or the lute, and the hand drum goes, and woman starts to sing about you, and you sit next to Minea and her daughter Amalea. Minea is a kind of poor flower. She picks flowers and kind of sells them out on the thing, and she's actually your neighbor. And she kind of slaps on the table and looks at her daughter and says, neighbors, this is my daughter Amalea. And you haven't really seen
I stand and bow politely.
You stand and bow. This is what kind of Amalea looks like. She's young, low 20s. Her eyes kind of look around. She's sitting next to her mother, Minea. Minea is this older woman. She looks like this. And you sit down and, are taking in the fare of the festival. And there's, lots of people around you. And Minea looks at you and says, so have you gotten jobs lately?
Have we? No, we have not.
No. Well, it'll look up. Don't worry about that, Pike. You know how it is out here. It'll look up.
Work
You'll
comes
find
and goes.
something soon.
Yeah, work comes and goes. It's great.
Yeah. What about you, Danith? Are you mostly working at the church?
I try to help out where I can.
It's odd that you're working with this Pike. And she kind of winks at Pike. How do you two get along?
Well, every bad example could use a better one.
She kind of looks at her daughter a little bit side-eye. She goes, right, I get that. Certainly. She looks at the goblin Vulgaris and, nods her head.
Someone needs to teach him how to live. I say that, but he's generally a good sort for the nights out.
Yeah. Algar, what's your relationship with the flower lady who lives across the hall from you?
I go and give her a thaler, the thaler I got from the other guy.
She looks at you, her eyes are really big, and she's just looking at her hand. She goes, oh, and she grabs in front of you and pulls you down and, kisses you on the cheek. Thank you, Thalgar. You are a fantastic person.
You're fantastic, and I rub her head.
And her hair is kind of thinning, she's that kind of older woman with flowers, and she tucks a flower in your lapel, or just in one of the buttonholes of your shirt or what you're wearing. Each of you make a vigilance roll.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
We did then.
Thalgar, you're just overtaken by the flower woman. I think her kiss and interaction with her, you just don't see anything. Gotta get those bad rolls out now.
Well, you've got to keep your eyes open in this city.
Pike, you made it though.
Yep.
Right?
I was first.
Yeah. No one else really sees it, as Minea is talking to Vulgaris, and everyone kind of quiets down because the minstrels start singing this really sad kind of song, and you see a couple of the eyes kind of, shift around. People look a little uncomfortable, but it's a sad song about the march from Alberator after the war, and the black lands that were left behind. And
I stand up and walk over to the musicians.
Okay, what is your plan, Vulgaris?
I just walk right up and say, "Excuse me, neighbors. Don't mean to interrupt, but that might not be the most appropriate song. You could get in trouble for a song like that. We wouldn't want that.
Right, you hear Fiona the third says, right, quiet now. She looks around. Pick up a different song. We don't
No
want
one
any
here
of the
wants-
joy guards coming.
No one here wants you to get in trouble. Honest.
You see the third's Fiona who said the prayer just nod to you, Vulgaris, thanking you for kind of making them shift the song because, the joy guard.
Because trouble.
Right, trouble will happen. And you know that there is a joy guard that's there because he's off duty. He lives in Pine Island and he was born in Pine Island, but then he became a joy guard. And you can see he looks a little uncomfortable, but he's glad that someone got up besides him because he didn't want to have to find the people he actually lives near. That's hard enough as it is to be a joy guard. He's a joy guard on another, they typically don't parole their own place. But
Sure, don't shit where you eat.
Right. But, he looks relieved, like he nods at you too.
I give him a
Vulgaris,
polite nod of my
because-
head with a smile.
Pike, you see Vulgaris get up and, at first that song has this kind of minor diminished tonality and it, sinks into your bones and people are uncomfortable because it's sad. And there's a little bit of worry. What does Pike feel when he suddenly hears this sad song?
A bit of relief that Danif has gone and shut it off, because again, you do not want to be sad in Agrella. So he'll throw a toast to the musical talents of this band, reminding us why we're so. This is a time to be happy.
Right. It's a festival. Well, it's a party for the neighborhood. Danif, when's the first time the Joy Guards find you, and you learned about the Joy Guards? How did that happen?
Oh, when I first came to Agrella, I, went to the Sun Church and then went to another Sun Church and went to the third Sun Church and found the one that I liked best. And somewhere between the Sun Churches, one of the local Trios people told me a little bit about, the kind of attitude that is admired in Agrella. And I've managed to more or less not run afoul of the Joy police.
Right. I made a mistake. I said Vulgaris went up there, but it was Danif who as a Templar. So I think you have a connection with Fiona the Third. You got it pretty quick then to close off that music.
Well, I take my idea of being a guardian fairly seriously, and I knew if somebody didn't stop it, it would evolve into something which could then turn into something. It just could be a big spiral of nonsense, and I felt it was best to nip it in the bud rather than see where it could go.
So it's more of a protective nature than...
It was as much to protect the musician as it was to protect simply all the various because if the Joy Guard shows up, there might be a brawl that could get out of hand. The emotion could get the better of the locals. It was just a big way to just protect the neighborhood.
Right. It wasn't like you're an honorary Joy Guard. You were just trying to...
No, I was just trying to avoid...
got in trouble.
Well, not just that, but avoid the domino effect that sometimes occurs with those sorts of things where, people are in their cups, somebody, evokes some emotions, some people come to stop the quote-unquote riot, and the riot that wasn't occurred sometimes starts. I just wanted to not have any of that happen.
Thalgar's a barbarian. You know what the Joy Guards are, correct?
Enlighten me a little bit.
A little bit, right. You cannot display any negative emotions in Agrella or you might be fined. Frowny faces are looked down upon.
Oh,
You
yeah.
get a fine from the Joy Guards, outburst of anger, sadness, melancholy, not allowed. What does
It
the
would be
staff
double
mage
plus
think?
ungood.
Double plus ungood. What does the barbarian staff mage think of that sort of thing? They actually have a guard going around finding people because they're not exhibiting enough joy.
Well, we can hear the song right now, right?
Right, they changed it.
Yeah, I'm too bad he changed it, because a melancholic song is a song that understands. And I think Talga, he doesn't really think much of this, because all feelings should be, what do you say?
Avoided, reviled, embraced.
No, not avoided, embraced. Embraced is the word I'm looking for.
So is it a strain that he has to keep those?
Yeah. For
Less
him,
than positive.
it's strange. It's strange, yeah.
Is it?
But he keeps a strict face for these reasons.
Is that a strain on him? Does it wear him out?
Yeah, but I mean, nothing like some meditation could fix.
All right, Vulgaris, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
we
Yes,
can hear
Joe.
you. Vulgaris, you're kind of sitting there with the group, and Danith gets up and makes the minstrels change their song because, God forbid, you all get
Don't
in
make
trouble.
them. I just suggest it would be a good idea.
Yeah, but I think the minstrels say you suggested strongly. I mean, she had a very good, beautiful voice, and cuts her right off, and she looks at you like, okay. You get this sense that the singer was like, really?
I try
All
to
the
give her a
best songs
sympathetic
are
look
sad.
I try to give her a sympathetic look, although I only try to give it to her with my eyes. Like, I feel for her. I do. I just don't want her getting, in trouble if she can avoid it.
She looks at you and goes, you know how hard it is to always sing in the major tonality? God.
I sadly do not miss. I, however, totally empathize with your situation, but, these are the times we live in.
Yep. Vulgaris, you're sitting there, and as Danith goes and is talking to the minstrels, and Fiona stands up and, gives them encouragement, and, there's another joy guard, or, off-duty joy guard that's part of your neighborhood. A fairly tall Ambrian man, kind of standing next to you, and his name is Saamo. And he looks down there and he goes, Goblin, kind of looks you up and down and goes, hey, your kind always needs some work. You're looking for a job?
What do you mean, my kind?
Well,
I just
I get
Short.
up and I stand on the
Short
table, and then now I'm
You
looking
stand
down
on
at him.
You
Yeah.
stand on the bench. He looks up
Yeah.
at you, and you don't see anything like, he just kind of shifts a little bit and kind of looks up at you, and he goes, oh, is that a yes then? You're standing tall, I see. I got some work for you. It's not too dirty if I'm for your kind.
Is it going to pay?
Yeah, everything pays for a goblin. A few coins here, maybe a thaler. Enough really probably to feed your family of 8 that's living with you.
We need more than one.
Oh, well, I know what kind of food you guys eat. But anyways, about that job. You interested? Can I count on you?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I'll send my boys over. And he kind of looks at you and goes, you won't need gloves. You'll be fine. Okay. Well, maybe tomorrow then. They'll come over first thing in the morning.
Okay, sounds good.
You got any other goblins that don't want to do it?
No, they don't sink as low as me.
Well, there's plenty of you folk around. Or just, find them on a corner or something. Get you all together and then we can muck out that stall. All right. So tomorrow morning then, first light, you can meet me in the main square of Robelo. How's that?
It's a deal.
Just where the game was. All right. Roger. And he kind of saunters away. Pike, you noticed that Minea's daughter, Amalea, she looks a little pale and peaked. Roll cunning. Yeah, you're not really certain what Amalea does. You haven't really met her before. She just looks a little unwell. And as you're kind of sitting there, this other woman kind of drops down on the bench and looks around and, slides up next to you. Hey, Pike, you don't know me. I know. But, I'm new and up and coming. My name's Lacella. Hey, you want to help me with this thing I got to do?
Advice for the up and coming. You don't have to sound so shifty when you're asking for assistance. Like, what's the work?
Well, it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's kind of looks over. Goes, it's night work,
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
some articles we want to perhaps get. I just need a second. Someone that knows the business that I can trust. I heard you're a trustful kind of person, and I know you've lived here your whole life like me, and we got to stick together with all these new folk, and I'm just looking for a second, looking for a partner for some, work.
A man always needs work.
Oh, good then. What's your availability?
Pike's gonna look at the rest of his glass. Like, well, if this doesn't get refilled, the end of this.
She looks at
Very
you.
few plans.
You mean you're good for tonight then? Late. late. You know, the wee hour late. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'll have a nap and throw stones at the windows or whatever until I'll be up.
Yeah, I know where you live. Don't worry about it. I'll come fetch you then.
I feel like that statement doesn't make me worry less about it. I know where you live. Don't worry about
I know
it.
you live.
Really? That's the takeaway.
All right, Pike. I'll come around and, you know, wear something nondescript. Oh, and do you have climbing gear?
This is serious night working about. No, not that I keep on hand.
Oh, well, can you pick locks? Like, you know, for, you know, the more than average.
That's the sort of talent admitting in public gets a man in trouble. I definitely wouldn't admit to that in public.
She elbows you. She goes, no one's like paying attention to you. It's like you and her in the middle of this bench. Everyone's listening to the song and eating and, you know, loud. She goes, okay. All right then. Well then, I'll see you late.
See you later.
But, all right. Don't get any ideas, so this is just business.
Always is.
Okay. She clinks her mug with you and she goes, you're almost empty. She pours half of it in there, goes, there you go. Consider that in advance. She kind of slides off the bench and you see her like, you try to follow her, but she's like gone, you know, like she fades into this because the courtyard's pretty full. Like it has 7 tenements of people out, you know. Some are by the grill getting meats, and you know there's a lot of people are cloistered around the small little keg, you know, that sort of thing. Do you do anything about Manea's daughter?
Is she interacting with people or anything?
Yeah, she's just sitting at your table, like with her mother. It seems like she's just visiting. She hasn't really been around much. You haven't necessarily ever seen her, and her mother's kind of doting on her, you know, asking her a lot of questions, which you probably try to overhear, but Emily isn't really answering them all that much.
Then, yeah. If it looks like her mother's questioning is getting to her in the way that, yes, I'm an adult, I don't want to answer your questions anymore, Mum, I'll fetch a drink for her and introduce her to the other neighbors of the tenement.
Okay. I mean, she knows some of them. You bring her a drink back to the table?
Yeah, and offer to show her around the place, so make introductions.
For a good time.
Yeah,
Her mother sat right there.
Hey, some people are into that sort of thing.
She looks at you and she goes, oh, thanks, but I'm just feeling tired. I'm just going to sit here with Mama for a little bit. And her mother reaches up and, you know, pinches her cheek. You know, Dane, what do you do during the festivities of the block?
I just walk around, talk to people, you know, and try to maintain a cheerful disposition. If anybody looks like they need help, you know, setting up their stalls or moving things around, I'll lend a hand as best I can. Otherwise, I go back to the church and help, you know, just do general maintenance. I'm sure there's some, I want to say I'm sure there's some, but I'm not positive that there's like charities that the church probably champions. So I probably work with a lot of that. Like, I don't know if they'd do a soup kitchen, but if so, I will work the soup kitchen. If they work with orphans, I'll go visit the orphanage.
All right.
Just trying to be helpful.
While you're there, kind of helping perhaps set up some stuff or, you know, clear tables of your block. You know, this fairly well dressed and kitted out. He has, you know, a breastplate on and a sword strapped to his back. And he, you know, kind of sidles up to you and says, Templar. Kind of looks over his shoulder and he goes, it's about to begin, brother. Really, this cleanup, it's about to begin. We're going to be cleaning more than this table.
The table seems clean enough to me.
Oh, yeah.
Did somebody spill it and I miss it?
Roll vigilant.
I mean, I get his insinuation. I'm trying to play stupid because I don't want to punch him in the face right now. But I kind of want to punch him in the face.
He kind of sidles over and he goes, well, new leaders are needed. We need to clean up this place. He looks over his shoulder. You can't really tell where he's looking. He goes, you know, we got to get the riffraff out in the trash. We got to clean up Pine Island for us Ambrians.
This is Pine Island. Sadly, riffraff is kind of synonymous with neighbor. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
He goes, yeah, you got my point. You get my drift. And he kind of elbows you. Damn it. We got to like make this a better place. These darklings.
I see. What do you have in mind?
Oh, well, we're looking for recruits. You interested in attending a meeting?
I might be interested in hearing what you all have to say. I mean, how to go into life with an open mind. Open mind or closed doors?
Right, you're a good Prios man. Good Prios man. Light to light. But I will give them your name, and we'll let you know when our next meeting is.
Okay.
All right, greatness. And he, moves on and helps you clean up the table and that sort of thing.
Who of my cadres around? Like, is Pike around?
Pike. Everyone's in the backyard courtyard. So Pike, Bulgaris, and Thalgar are there. I don't know if they're milling around. Pike's at a bench. You probably see a young woman slide away from him and disappear into the crowd, and probably see him bring a tankard to Amalea, and her mother is sitting next to Minea. And Bulgaris, you probably overheard or some degree watched from across the courtyard Bulgaris's interaction with this other man, and he was up on, suddenly got up on the bench. What would Thalgar be doing? Taking it all in, barbarian?
Yeah, Thalgar is he doesn't drink, so
That's terrible.
he's sitting there with a huge mug with apparently clean water.
As clean as it gets in Pine Island.
Yeah, so he sits there in silence, taking it all in, holding the mug with the water, and just like wrinkles his nose, looking at the water, figuring out if he's gonna drink it.
Yeah, so Dane, if they're around, what would you do after that meeting?
I try to find Pike in a way that like won't draw attention to the guy who just insinuated we basically bash on humans, and I'll kind of stroll up next to Pike and whisper, "That guy over there," and I'll gesture. He's just talking to me. He's looking to recruit people that want to cleanse, like the riffraff. If you'd be so inclined to keep an eye on him, we might want to, try to discreetly convince he and his friends to cease such nonsense.
I mean, depending how discreet they are being about it, they're not going to make it home tonight. This is Pine Isle.
Sadly, I cannot protect everyone all at once.
Just protect those that you care about, Danif, on the chest.
Well, I give you a little wink when I say, sadly, I cannot protect everyone all at once. It's my catchphrase when I admit that there's some people that I shouldn't protect because they're just nasty, dangerous people. But I just give you a little nod and say, well, if you, if you need any help, just let me know.
I'll keep an eye on them.
I guess if you're...
Maybe might actually go tell Aunt Baggy that there's some idiots in town. So she probably already knows.
Real discreet. Pike, my fault. Real discreet.
Yeah, that is a seriously different result. You go from 15 to 5 in that exchange.
16.
Right.
It's quite a difference.
What does Pike do anything specific when Danif tells him this?
I'm laughing like Danif and I are having a grand joke, and then I'm continuing my rounds and keeping an eye on the crowd and break the Thaler that we got given into some smaller denominations and nab a goblin messenger to go warn Aunt Baggy that there's in our condiment there is some bigots being bigots. But there might be some fish eating well around the island tonight.
Okay. Minea, gets up, and as you're doing that, Danif, her and her daughter Amalea leave, start to squeeze out between the thing. You can see that Minea is trying to help her daughter move. Amalea is swaying a little bit, but then, she kind of...
How late in the day is it?
It's not quite sunset, but close, like an hour before, give or take.
I go over and...
early.
Oh, sorry. I go over and say, would you care for an escort, neighbors?
Minea, pat you on the hand. No, that's okay. That's okay. I'm just taking my daughter back. She wants to take a little nap. But you enjoy yourself. You enjoy yourself.
I am enjoying myself, and it would be enjoyable to have somebody to talk to on a evening stroll, if you're so inclined.
Oh, okay. You could walk us back. You could wash us.
Thank you, my lady.
Loops her arm in you and kind of looks up at you, and as you kind of squeeze your way out to the front road, Danif with her and her daughter. Danif goes to escort Amalea and her mother, Minea, back to their rooms. Now, do you guys live on the first, second, or third floor?
Differences in price?
Yeah, the first floor is cheaper. The third floor is more because, you are on Pine Island, and Pike would know that, if you're going to boost something from someone, the first floor is the easiest.
We'd be at the bottom.
You'd be at the bottom floor, the first floor. That makes sense. Minea lives next to you. That she would. Are you really conserving money? Like, do you have a room for all of you in the same place, or you all have your separate room?
I would be conserving money. I don't know about everybody else.
Yeah,
Pike,
I'm conserving money too, because any money I don't spend
okay.
can go to charity.
how about? So I can almost guarantee Pike, Vulgaris, and Dana are all squeezed into one room. What
No,
about
Pike
you?
probably lives on the second floor.
Okay, he's smarter because he doesn't want to get his stuff stolen.
Yeah, he knows about what's happening. Also, it's a lovely island. You might as well have a balcony.
Sure. Has he done anything to prevent getting stolen from?
Carried everything worth stealing with him at all times.
Nothing else, though. There's nothing else that he does to let brethren of the same ilk know that he's living there.
He'll have like deadbolts on the doors and the windows.
Okay. Falgar. So does Pike live alone? He's living rich for someone who has no cash, but he probably picks up what he needs.
Yeah, it's not that Pike is poor, it's that Pike is in a continuous flow of money that just maintains a
Easy
sort
come,
of
easy go.
his net cash flow is 0, which says nothing about the gross.
How about Falgar? Falgar, barbarian staff mage, trying to convert these friends that you work with to you live with Danif and Vulgaris?
No,
No, just separate.
I sleep. I sleep. I have a rag, and I sleep like in a corner behind the house.
Okay, like in the square.
Yeah,
With the chickens.
yeah, with the chickens.
Like a little hammock. You still got to pay for that though. The landlord, he may cut you a price, but
Yeah, but it's cheap. It's
you
very
protect
cheap.
the animals in the evening.
Yeah, I'm at one with the animals.
So, Dana, if you walk out Minea and Amalea, through the squeeze space between things, and you have Minea in arm, you're going around the corner to the front door of your tenement, and Amalea was right behind you. But when you look back, you just see that she's laying on the ground, like you kind of hear her fall, perhaps. And then her mother yells out, Amalea, Amalea, and she runs over, and Amalea is laid out face down on the ground. You could hear Minea yell out, "Help! Dana, help!"
I'll go over and try to see what I can see.
Yeah, she's out.
Is there
She
any-
doesn't appear to
Like
be
any
bleeding.
visible blood flow or anything like that?
No. You want to roll cunning?
I'd have to look at my character sheet before I answer that question. I'll roll. Do I want to? I'm less than thrilled about it.
Yeah. You have no idea, but Danif, she looks like she's dead. Danif, what's wrong? Minea yells out, "Help! My daughter's dying!"
Okay. Is there a local medicus?
Not on the street.
No,
people look around and
Is there a place, if I knew somebody was seriously hurt, is there a place, even if it's a neighbor, like a street over or something, is there a place I know I could go?
yeah, so Pike has a connection to Baggy, who's right here at 23, I think. Yeah. Baggy Sick House and Medicus. You're somewhere, you're probably 4 or 5 blocks away from Baggy's Sick House and Medicus, which is right
Pick up
here
the
on
girl
that
and
edge.
look to her mother and say, "Follow me," and I start heading toward Baggy's place.
Okay. I'm almost positive Vulgaris, Pike, and Falgar hears Minea yelling from out in the street while you're in the courtyard. It's loud, but you hear this yell for help. What would you all do? Sounds terrible.
Yeah, running out.
Are the people that were going to go around, quote unquote, cleaning up the filth still here? Or have they left?
You don't see them, Pike. Or you don't see the man that Danif pointed out. He seems long gone.
Okay, I go out as well.
Okay. Vulgaris, Pike goes out. Valgar, I assume you go with them? Or you
Yeah, I
move
follow.
out? Okay.
I will follow.
So, Pike, Vulgaris, and Thalgar, you exit, through this crawl space, as quickly as possible from the courtyard out into the main street. You see Danif carrying Amelie, and she's laid out, like her arms are flopping. She's bowed over Danif's arms, and each of you roll a vigilant test. Oh my goodness. All right. So, Pike, you see Danif carrying Amelie, and she's flaccid, like laid out in his arms, no muscle tone, arms, like just hanging, head way out, eyes open, tongue laying out. Manea's next to Danif, and she's just holding on to, Danif's one arm, just, sobbing, and you see her like asking Dame this question. She's got all these tears in her eyes, and she's obviously sobbing and in some sort of misery. What does Pike do?
I'll start moving ahead of Danif to kind of barge people out the way, make it slightly easier for him to run with this unconscious girl to Baggy's house.
Okay, you probably asked Danif where he's going, or figure it out, because Baggy.
We're running north with a unconscious girl.
Okay.
And
Oh, Gene.
Yeah.
I lay on hands.
Before we get to you, Vulgaris, surely you're gonna go lay on hands then, Vulgaris, or try to?
Yes.
Okay. So Pike goes out in front, tries to move people around.
And I
Manea
did
is
make
sobbing.
I did make the vigilant check too.
Yeah, I know. Manea's sobbing. We get the Vulgaris last here. Thalgar, what do? You probably know where they're going, it would seem. And Pike knows Baggy, or the renowned medicant of Pine Isle, or, what they have for a sick house.
Try and give a hand carrying the body, if it's a body, the lady.
Right. Let me look at your skills. Roll Lore Master.
That's cunning, right?
Cunning, yeah, it is cunning.
Yep.
Let's see what. Yeah, you just have.
If you click on the little icon button on your,
Okay.
it should give you a pop-up. You do that.
Vulgaris, you see Thalgar. Pike runs out in front. He's trying to. There's not a lot of people on, but it's almost. So a lot of people are walking through Pine Isle, and it's nearly dusk. He's trying to move people out of the way. Thalgar goes to help, and Thalgar, you see that there's this line of green just tracing Amalea's lips a little bit, and you are almost positive that's from a poison called henbane, as Vulgaris races up on the other side and probably around Manea's side, that sort of thing. So Danif is carrying Amalea. Thalgar tries to help, grab her feet because she's laid out, really. And Thalgar sees this kind of line of green that looks like henbane, which is a poison. Vulgaris, what do you do?
I'll try to lay on hands.
I have a question.
Okay. Yes.
Do I know anything about this poison besides what it is? Like if there's an antidote or anything like that?
There's no antidote. If you take small amounts of it, it's used as, like a sleeper, that sort of thing. It's not that big a deal. But large amounts, it's a pretty potent poison, generally leading to death.
Okay. Yeah.
Vulgaris, roll cunning.
Yeah, I don't have a target
You could just roll a flat cunning check.
for the heal.
No, I'll tell you if you make your cunning check or not. All right, Vulgaris. So you can target me, and you can roll your heal against me.
I can't see the map other than.
Oh, you can't see where we are right now? Does anyone see it, or am I out?
Hold on.
I thought I had it right. No, it is right. Everyone else can see the map, right?
I can see the map.
I can see the map, but I
The
don't see
city map,
anybody.
yeah.
I
I'm
don't
all the
see
way at the
anybody to
top.
target.
We're all the way at the top, just north of, just west, because the way the compass rose is, of Knight's Isle. So go up or go north on your screen, probably.
Oh no, I think Joe's looking to select the target to cast lay on hands.
Oh, you can't. Can you guys not see me?
Yeah,
I can
you're
see
the
it now.
yeah.
weird squiggly stuff.
Yeah.
I can't target you on my laptop. I don't know what I'm doing.
You might need to alt Click.
Oh, there you go. I will do it for you if you want. Do you take temporary corruption, Vulgaris?
I would.
You would take all
Here.
4 of them.
Is that what I got?
Yeah, you got 4. You lay on
so
hands,
I'll try
Vulgaris.
I'll try to avoid all 4.
Okay. Yeah, you do have to. You cast a spell into the dead body. You realize it's dead after you cast a spell, and I guess you just take 1.
I take 1, yeah.
You lay on your hands, and you realize that Amalea is dead. Minea, her mother, looks at you and says, Vulgaris, why didn't it work? Try again. I
don't think my power's strong enough.
She hits you as much as an old lady can. She punches you in the chest. Vulgaris, try again.
I try to. I go through the motions to make it look like I'm doing it.
Okay.
It's a poison, guys.
Persuasion at advantage. Roll persuasion at +2. Falgar, you spit out that she's been poisoned?
Yeah.
You said favor or just +2?
You could make it at favor because I think Minea is so distraught that she's not going to.
Oh, Jesus.
How did you? Oh, you failed anyways because your persuasion is so bad. Okay. Dane, if Vulgaris lays on hands, it obviously doesn't work. Falgar spits out that it's poison.
And I show them the green line on the lips.
What does Minea, Amalea's mother, just is screaming, sobbing, yelling at Vulgaris because he's not trying hard enough. He's faking it. And what does Daneth do as Minea is sobbing? And it's obvious that Amalea is not going to be recovered.
I still take her to Baggy's because if nothing else, Baggy might, give us more information. And it feels like a polite thing to do. So
okay,
I just keep taking the body to Baggy's and, it is what it is.
Vulgaris, as Minea is yelling at you to save her daughter and you're making a poor attempt at hiding that you're not doing really much, you see Amalea's kind of fist open, because she was in tetany a little bit, or, she had closed it, and this little piece of paper flutters and lands on the ground, and Daneth tromps over the top of it as everyone's moving. This folded piece of paper. Pike and Falgar see a group of 4 Joy Guards come around the corner and then start marching towards Daneth and the group of you as Minea is wailing at the death of her daughter. What does Falgar and Pike do as the Joy Guards start making it towards them?
I start running towards the guards and going, there's been a murder!
I grab that paper.
Okay.
I put my finger in her throat.
In whose throat?
I don't even know what that means.
In Amalea's?
Yeah.
Why?
If she can get something up from the stomach.
She's dead. Sure. You stick your hand in there.
Okay, so I guess I have to do this because of impulsive.
You've said it, you do
right.
it.
Oh, yeah, you stick your finger in her mouth. You can see that her tongue is green and the edge of her
yeah, so that she's dead. That just went straight over Helga's head.
The Joy Guards push past Pike. Stand aside, man. And they look at Minea and they go, woman, stop that crying. There's nothing to do about it. It looks like she's dead. We'll have to find you otherwise.
Wrong with this city.
A lot.
Fal, you got your fingers in her throat. Amalea is dead. They kind of look at you and he goes, take your hand out of there. The woman's dead. Now, brighten up. No need to cry. What does Falgar do as the Joy Guards are admonishing Minea, and she swallows the rest of her tears.
Let's just think of the happy times in her life. Focus on the good memories.
Right. The Joy Guards say to Pike, good memories. Well, the woman is dead. Are you taking her? They look at Daneth. Are you taking her to the cemetery?
Taking her to Baggy.
To the medikit.
Well,
Ooh, we'd hoped to make it before. Again, this is a murder. She collapsed minutes ago.
Well, Baggy's place is for a sick house, not the dead. But I guess as long as you go there with smiles on your face, or at least a flat one, no tears.
let's move aside.
They
We'll
look
go
at
where we're going and
Yep.
try to be as non-sad as we can.
Cheery evening to you all.
Okay. Pike, Daneth, and Falgar. Pike, how sad are you about this?
I hardly knew this girl, but at the same time, someone has. I'm more upset about like how sad it's made the flower woman than
Or 'cause
personally
she's your
sad.
neighbor, huh?
Yeah, like
Okay.
the fact I'm sad for the neighbor, not personally because I barely knew the daughter, but also like this woman has no money, and whoever murdered her daughter just nearly got her fined and arrested by the Joy Guards within minutes of her daughter dying. I'm more pissed off about that happening than I am sad.
Okay. So I would have Pike roll a discreet, and Danith and Thalgar roll resolute to hold it in while they're moving past the Joy Guards. Make sure they don't get fined. Thalgar, roll resolute. Danith, how do you fail to keep it together?
I'm mostly, honestly, just pissed off. Like, here, some guard I make, I'm feet away from a woman and don't even see her get murdered somehow. I'm just fucking pissed off. Like,
All right,
I'm less
angry.
sad and more just enraged.
Yeah, I think the Joy Guards can see that on your face. They know exactly who you are and where you work for, and they're going to swing by, and you're going to have a $2 fine for not keeping it in check.
They best swing by, because if they give it to me now, there's going to be more than just that on my face. There's going to be, like, I try to be a good guy and try to, protect people, but this is not the time to piss me off even more.
Thalgar, roll a resolute check, and I will show Vulgaris I'm assuming you look at the paper. Oh my god.
No way.
Thalgar, I think you get fined right on the spot.
Damn it.
How does Thalgar critically fail at passing the Joy Guards? Like, how does he fail, barbarian, staff, mage, at buttoning up whatever emotion it is? It's negative. So how does the Joy Guards, like, what happens?
Life is precious to Targal, so he cries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what happens, Thalgar, is you can't hold it in. You start crying. And then Minea, whose daughter just died, who's buttoned it up and her lips are, pressed tightly. As soon as you can't hold it in, Minea just starts sobbing. And the Joy Guards, like, fine you on the spot. 2 thaler apiece, Thalgar. Medea looks at him and says, I have no money.
Pike will
I start crying even more and leans on the shoulder of her. I have no money either.
in an attempt to save at least Minea, Pike will nudge one of the Joy Guards with a joke. Oh, better get away, otherwise the crying plague will get us.
Sure.
It's clearly contagious.
Roll persuasion at disadvantage or -2. They're still going to want 6 thaler total from the group eventually within the next 24 hours or on the spot. Vulgaris, you open up this. Yeah, you fail. Like, they just shove you aside, says, damn it, man. Don't we know that? Of course the crying plague will come, but this isn't the crying plague. Look, just 6 thaler for the group of you. Vulgaris, you're probably behind them. Like, you've stopped to bend over and pick up this piece of paper that fell from Amalea's hands that Danith walked over, and you see the Joy Guards hassling Danith, Thalgar, and Pike. You open up the paper. I'm assuming Vulgaris can read.
I would guess so.
And you open up the paper, and that's what you read. Can you still see it?
Yeah.
Okay. What does Vulgaris do after he reads that little slip of paper?
I'm looking around. Did anybody see me pick it up?
I would leave the characters up to them whether, are you trying to hide that you picked it up?
I'm trying to hide it from anybody other than them.
Yeah. Sure. Roll a cunning or discreet at, I'd roll a discreet at advantage and favor. So +2 and favor, because everyone's watching the Joy Guards shake down these crying, unhappy people. Oh, look at you. Yeah. So no one really sees you pick it up. Whether the other characters see you or not, it's possible. You don't notice that anyone's necessarily has too much attention on you, because you're probably 10 steps, 15 steps behind them as they're getting shaken down by the Joy Guards. What does Vulgaris do?
He stuffs it in his pocket.
Okay.
And,
all right.
He's not going to share it until after we're finished dealing with the body.
Okay. So I see you going to Baggies, or the Medicant, which is right here on 23, Pine Island. Let me do one thing. Let's take a 5-minute break to pee, and then we'll come back. How's that?
Right.
All right. Who's back?
I am
Me.
here.
Joe, Lork,
I said I was here.
Tristan. I know. I'm going through. Mr. Hitachi, you there?
I'm here.
All right. So you march through Pine Island. Joy Guards I mean, the Joy Guards kind of bracket you. Like, they don't want spreading of this sadness. Although fining you $6 as a group surely is within their rights as the Joy Guard, but they don't want you to, spread this sadness. So they they kind of act as a escort, moving people out of the way. Nothing to be seen here. Nothing to be seen here. Back to your houses. Back to your homes. Go about your business. Smiles on your faces. This is nothing to be worried about. Keep moving. They kind of like escort you to the Baggy Sick House in Medican. Baggy Sick House is in this western kind of tip of Pine Island, and Pike knows this because Baggy and him are connected. Like, he probably calls her Aunt Baggy, or like they're that kind of close. She took care of him when he lost his parents in some degree, maybe even had a room for him when he lost his parents as an orphan. And there's this lonely kind of wooden house in the middle of this small square where the sick can receive relief, and it's run by this goblin, very short, very round, who's now part of the Troika, or in charge of Pine Isle Bagahulakuk, and who goes short by Baggy. She originally came from Thistlehold with her master called Ignacio, who was the original medicant healer of the poor and the destitute on Pine Island in the Cauldron in Agrella, and she was his assistant. And when Ignacio died, oddly enough, to some people's surprise, he willed everything regarding the sick house and the medicant to his goblin assistant Baggy, and that's how she became owner of the sick house and medicants. There's rumors, most of them malicious, perhaps, that she sells poisons and other forbidden elixirs, because she is a goblin, one of those dark things. But she is one of the three, the Troika of the Geronea Collegium, which is essentially the local government of Pine Island. Every district has their own collegium, and the one in Pine Island is called the Geronea Collegium. And she emerged as one of the central figures during the Grove feud, when those residents of Pine Island protected the forest here in this eastern tip of Pine Island from being logged, and essentially sat in the trees and prevented the trees from being cut down. And she became one of the Pine Island Troika, who are still in charge of the Geronea Collegium, even though they have to go through elections every year, and they're thought as troublemakers. So the group, with Joy Guards escorting them and pushing people out of the way so that their sadness isn't infectious, they approach Baggy's sick house. The sick house kind of has tables on the outside. Baggy sometimes runs almost like a soup kitchen that sometimes the Church of Pine Island helps, and sometimes it doesn't. There's more than one because the church doesn't always feed goblins. Who takes the lead as you approach Baggy's sick house?
It's probably best if Pike takes the lead, given he and Baggy know each other.
Sure. You go out in front or ahead?
Yeah.
Yeah, Pike, you enter, the doors of Baggy's sick house are always open. You know the place by the back of your hand. You go through the front doors, there's a small hallway, and then it opens up into this big room, and there's shelves, and in the center, there's this island where Baggy or any of her assistants will package up, medicants and cures and herbal poultices and teas, and it's pretty busy, because it does in the back room is where there's cots and stuff for the really sick that Baggy tries to save. Even though most of those beds cost $1 a night, she does a lot of herbal cures, and she does make antidotes for poison. But Pike, for a fact that Baggy doesn't sell poisons or any of those things like that. And she will take people in to, kind of give them consultations for like 4 or 5 ortegs, if they have concerns or that sort of thing. And she sees you walk in. She goes, Pike, it's been a long time. It is good to see you. Come, quick. We need lots of help. His place is crazy.
Oh, it always is here.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll throw a hand in, but we do need some help as well, expertise and everything.
She looks
Manea's
you over,
daughter.
she tips her head.
Manea's daughter got poisoned, and it's gone bad.
Oh, well, quickly. Let's go. Go, boy. Go. She's like 3. She's short for a goblin, but she's probably a head shorter than Vulgaris. Like she's probably as wide as she is tall, and she got these short, stubby legs, and she's like pushing you out the door. Come on, you're keeping up. Go. Show me where. We must hurry. And she starts grabbing stuff off the shelves. And
No, Maggie, it went.
yeah, I know you said it was bad, but we gotta hurry if we're gonna do anything.
Yeah, Maggie, you missed it. Past tense.
She's dead?
Yeah,
What the hell do you want me to do, boy?
I don't know.
She kind of
You got a morgue or something here?
she goes, no, that's the cemetery's job. I don't keep the dead here. They make the live sick. She puts stuff back onto there. She like pushes you out. She's so short, like her hands are just hitting right beyond your butt. Come on. Show me her look at the dead woman.
Take Maggie over to the group.
The group sees Pike exit the building with this very short, round goblin who, to be honest, she's not famous, but she's a personage that everyone would know. And she walks up to Danif and Valgar and Pike, and Danif is still carrying Amelie, and Valgar and Benea are probably still crying. They can't control it. She kind of looks past them at the joy guards and shakes her head, rolls her eyes a little bit. And Pike hears her say, "Damn joy guards." And she stops about 5 or 6 feet away from you, and she pulls at her shirt. She goes, well, she looks over and she leans in and she goes, she's been poisoned. Henbane, it looks like. Then she puts down, well, I guess it's not an illness. And she walks over and she puts her hand and she opens her mouth and sticks her hand around her in there and says, yep, she's been poisoned by Henbane. Menea bubbles. Who would want to poison her? And Baggy looks at her and goes, that's outside my skill. She looks at Pike, goes, Pike, you want to take this one, boy? Nothing for me to do here. Here. She reaches in her hand and she looks around and she goes, here, take this, Menea. And she gives her a little pinch and just put it under your tongue there. Put it under your tongue there, gal. Put it under your tongue. And she looks at Balbar, his snot probably running down his nose, and goes, you two, here, barbarian, take some of that. Put it under your tongue. Put it in your cheek. Calm me down.
To a barbarian. I hear the goblins say.
And Baggy looks at Vulgaris and goes, well, they haven't had it as hard as us.
Baggy, do you have any antidote just in case we run across this again?
Well, sure, I could sell you some antidote if you like it. All I can make is moderate antidotes. I usually give them for a tooth ailer or so.
Miss Baggy, how would such a poison be administered?
Well, it's in her mouth. She'd have to eat it or drink it, I'd expect. I mean, that's how most poisons go.
Where would someone go to get this kind of poison? And I look at her with like some tense eyes.
Did you
Not here.
Did you put that stuff under your tongue, Talgar?
Not yet.
Not yet. She looks at you. I don't know. I'm the healer of Pine Island, not the poisoner. You'd have to ask. She looks at Pike sideways a little bit. You'd have to ask those in the know, I guess.
Pike, where would you go to get some poison like this?
What an accusation that someone from Cypria would know someone that sells poison.
You might
Or the
not know
cauldron.
someone the cauldron. Someone in the cauldron would make it, sure.
Actually, it's,
Knows.
given it's expensive, like, I imagine there's a few back alleys in, I can't remember the name of the middle bit of Agrella.
Serrato?
Yeah, there's a few shady alleys in Sarad. I'm getting distracted and I don't know where you can buy this. I swear.
Yeah, you were right when you spit out cauldron by mistake.
Yes.
Certainly.
By mistake.
By mistake. And Menea looks at you and goes, well, Amalea moved to the cauldron and she was working there. I didn't know what she was. I never visited because she didn't want me to.
I mean, I wouldn't want to visit the cauldron, but how long ago did she move there?
About 6 months. She moved out of her mother's house to, make it on her own. Like, she's a young woman. She can't live off her mother. And her mother really doesn't. Her mother's pretty poor. Like, she probably lives more by hand-to-mouth handouts as a flower seller. And so, she moved out to try to, make it on her own. And she works in the cauldron where lots of day workers work, but she doesn't necessarily look like a day worker, Pike. She obviously does something else.
Mm. Yeah, I'll thank Aunt Baggy for the time. And where is the cemetery?
On Pine Island, it is 39, 20, 20. No, that's the thing.
The statues.
Yeah, it's probably over here. This, near the park and a little plot of land.
Well, exactly, we know again. In what
23.
area?
You're right here. 23. Yeah.
Our house is somewhere like in this bay.
Right here on the edge. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, it's
So there's a small cemetery like right here in this corner. Most of the time there's not enough room, really. You have to pay a lot to bury someone. Minea doesn't have enough money. I mean, most of the time they just burn them out here on the island, put their ashes in the sea, in the lake.
yeah. I think we take her to the temple. May hold the body for the next round of burnings.
Okay. Baggy pats Dalgar on the elbow. Man, you better take some of that stuff. These joy cards are going to find you more if you can't stop up those tears. I mean, look, you're making Minea cry. How's a woman supposed to stop if you can't stop? Put that in your mouth. It'll calm you down.
Yeah, I look at it and I'm, all right then. Put it in my mouth.
All right. Make a strong check. Vulgaris, you're at Baggies. Okay. You feel loose, Dalgar, and calmer, but you don't necessarily have any negative effects from it. You don't suffer necessarily. That doesn't overtake you, but you definitely feel loose, a little bit sleepy, but not, just calm, a little bit calmer. You hear Minea next to you sigh, my daughter's dead.
Yeah, I take the flower I got from her and put it on her daughter's shirt.
Okay. Vulgaris, you were going to wait about the letter until you got the Baggies. Obviously, Baggy can't do anything. Amelie is dead. She's been poisoned by Henbane.
Yeah, well, I would probably wait until after we got an antidote, and I just tell her I can only afford one thaler.
She looks at Pike. Damn it, boy. This one time for Pike's friends. 1 thaler. All right. Who wants one? You're going to have to pay the guards 6 thaler. Make sure you have enough. You don't want to get put into the joy prison.
I'm gonna buy one. I don't think about those 6 thalers at the moment. I forgot about them.
Okay. So subtract the thaler from your coinage.
I'm just using the one that I just made from our winnings.
Okay. You could put a moderate antidote on your record.
Okay.
So
I can't.
Go ahead.
I can't afford it because I spent some money to send the message to Baggy about the.
Right. She toddles in and toddles back out. She gives a moderate antidote to Vulgaris and a moderate antidote to Thagger, and looks at Dana, who's still holding it, and sighs, and looks at Pike and goes, well, I got to get back to the living. Sorry, Minea. Sorry about your daughter. It's terrible business to die so young. But, all right. And she kind of looks over her shoulder and shakes her head. Pike knows she's just trying to get out of full visibility of the joy guards because she doesn't want to be fined for seeming sad about Amalea's death. And she toddles back inside.
I'll stand in the doorway to obscure view. She's small enough to hide.
Right. Once she's inside, maybe she can show sadness on her face, but that maybe not in Pine Island, but in a number of places your neighbors could turn you into there's a place on Merchants where you can report your neighbors and the joy guards will come make a visit to decide if you needed to be charged and fined because your neighbors complained that you weren't happy enough. But Pine Island doesn't necessarily have as many neighbors reporting their neighbors about sorrow. Vulgaris, as after you get the cure, you are going to do something with the letter?
So
or the message?
walk away from there, I'll share it with the group, pass it along,
Okay. Our
and then read it if
Pop
there's
it out.
somebody who can't read. Okay.
Manea looks at you and goes, "What is that? What is that, Vulgaris?"
Trying to figure out what it is.
Well, we have to take my daughter to the cemetery. She's holding it together. She seems a little sleepy. She's holding on to Thalgar's arm and, Stag a little bit, not drunk, but, a little bit floaty. I don't need to see it because I can't read whatever it is. Amalea couldn't read either.
She couldn't.
No, neither of us could read.
Weird.
So Vulgaris passes this around. She probably takes it, she looks at it, and then she gives it to Thalgar. Looks at Vulgaris. "Why are you passing messages around while we're taking my daughter to burn?"
Just business.
Oh, okay. What does the group do when they do you tell them where you got the letter, I assume, or the message?
Yes.
Okay.
I kind of whispers to the group because I'm assuming we still go there carrying the body.
Right. I think you're like walking through Pine Island with the body. Everyone's avoiding you because you're actually carrying the dead. Either you're going here to the, where they take bodies to put up on and burn.
I kind of whisper to the group, like nodding over to the old lady, like couldn't business wait a little bit before we, after we dispose of the body? Because show a little empathy, man.
Perhaps we just find somewhere for Minea to rest up, and then we can have a proper talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll quickly get Minea and Amalea to the Sun Temple, and
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can go to this. You can go Pine Island Temple, for rites, I guess, sun rites. Daneth knows the way to the Sun Island Temple. Obviously, you could take her to the temple for services, I guess.
I assume that would be an easier way of getting her body burnt.
Right. That's right here in the center of Pine Island, really. So you go to the temple. It's this old inn that has this cobbled together metal thing, and you take her in, and one of the Thurges that Daneth knows is there and comes over, and then you hear this little tis in his mouth. His name is Talrek, and he shepherds Minea to a thing and takes from Daneth and puts her on this small thing in front, takes her to this little alcove of the temple of Pine Island, or the Sun Temple of Pine Island, and kind of more seclusion so they could perform rites and then wrap her up and then take her to where she will be cremated. And that happens pretty easily. And you're in the Sun Temple. It's probably nearing dusk. There's shadows coming in through the wooden windows because it is a pretty dilapidated temple, but it's, not a fantastic temple. What do you all do now that you've settled Minea and Amalea in?
I think we need to talk about this letter.
Okay. What do you all think of the letter?
So have we heard of this shore, the Clyfell shore?
No. Let me look at your character sheets to see. Pike has no idea. And if you don't really know when you look, it seems like some sort of code. Thalgar, make me a cunning check at -3. Thalgar's the only one who may perhaps know because he has lore master. So make me a cunning check at -3.
The names wouldn't mean anything as a Grellan native.
Say that again.
Like the names, the Powder Bird, the Mask Master, and Sungazer wouldn't mean anything.
Not really. They're obviously code names for...
Oh, that was wrong skill. Sorry about that.
Okay. They're obviously code names for people. You have no idea who the Powder Bird is. You're not really certain who the Sungazer is. You know a mask maker, which the group has a positive relationship to. That's Kirpano, but you're not really certain if that's what the mask master means. Daneth can roll cunning. Let's see if Daneth knows.
Yes. Keep picking on Danish not so good stats.
Not my fault.
Yes, it is, Gene. You're the one who decides what stat I roll.
I know, but this one makes sense.
Oh, sure. Makes sense it does. Right.
Daneth. So you're looking over this. You see that it looks like some sort of letter. You know that Amalea couldn't read. she was obviously in possession of it. She does some sort of work in the cauldron. You could probably surmise she's a messenger of some nature. You have no idea what those 3 code names mean. You have no idea necessarily. It looks like it's directions to something, some sort of drop. What do you guys discuss about it?
Well, it looks like it's a plot of possibly ne'er-do-wells, and whether the girl was intentionally given this letter to give to someone else, or whether she mistakenly grabbed the letter and was supposed to deliver it, not realizing that she wasn't supposed to deliver it. My guess is the people who wrote this letter were the people who killed the girl. So fuck them. I say we, deliver it to whomever would look into this sort of thing and, let them burn in hell.
Very Danish of you. Pike, what do you think about this letter?
It's talking about a drop of something. Pike's most familiar with dead drops. Messing with other people's dead drops is probably a way to end up dead yourself. But again, they murdered someone close to him, which does open the door to fucking with them.
Why does he think, or does he have an opinion of why Amalea had the message?
She was a poor girl working in the cauldron. I don't think she was stupid, but she couldn't read. She was at least uneducated, and people probably took advantage of that. Desperate person in a desperate situation. Deal.
So you think she was hired?
I'm choosing to think positively about my neighbors and not assume that their recently murdered daughter was part of some sort of plot.
Okay.
Given I don't know the nature of the plot, just these codes, I reserve my opinion to think badly about it.
Vulgaris, what do you think about it as you guys are discussing it?
I think that she was just a pawn, that she was probably asked just to be a messenger. And the person who gave it to her knew that she couldn't read, so they weren't worried about her, learning information that they didn't want to share.
Dalgar, you have any? Go ahead, my fault.
So maybe we stake out that place.
The shores? Or the shore?
Where was she working again?
She worked in the cauldron.
Yeah.
That's what her mother said. She moved to the cauldron. She had some sort of job. You haven't really talked to Minea about her daughter necessarily, but she said she moved to the cauldron and did some sort of work, but Minea actually never really visited her. Amalea would come visit her on occasion. And, as mothers are, she would ask a lot of questions. But
So do we think that her mother would have an idea of where she worked or what she did?
I guess
Yeah, she's probably our only lead, but I'm going to have to shoot off in the near future. I've got a bit of an early day tomorrow, and I only just realized how late it is getting.
So, yeah, we have next week, our time changes, right? So Thalgar, Vulgaris says maybe Amalea's mother is their only lead. You two have cried together for quite some time. What does Thalgar do, or what does he think?
I put my hand on the mother's shoulder and ask her, do you know or have any clue where she might have been working in the cauldrons?
She just kind of, she wakes up, you go, whatever they gave you, Reeser makes her really calm. She's bent over and you put her hand on your shoulder. She wakes up, she goes, oh, she puts her hand on your hand. She goes, thank you, Thalgar, thank you. No, I don't know what she did. I think her roommate was someone called Tenid, and she might have had a boy or a man called Orador. I think they were a thing. You know how young people are. And she looks at you, and that's the only thing I know. She didn't really tell me much. I only know those things, that she lived with someone maybe called Tenid and for a while, and then she had, someone to keep warm at night called Orador, but now she's not there.
Thank you. And I start following her home.
So you can take her home?
Yeah.
The two of you leaning on each other as night falls towards Minea's
And I tell the group, we should get some sleep and go to the cauldrons tomorrow.
Okay. That's reasonable. It's going to be dark. Going into the cauldron at night is not like going into Calvera, and definitely not like being on Knight's Island. I don't think you guys can get to Knight's Island in the evening. And Mariner's Court is probably safe for Daneth because he knows someone in Mariner's Court. So Thalgar takes Minea back to her tiny little room, which is in the same building that you guys in. Would Danef and Vulgaris do anything over the evening?
I think I would share the information that I have to go to the square tomorrow morning at first light.
Oh, for the job?
Yeah.
Okay. Think Don Vulgaris is going to be out there waiting for the job?
Yes.
Okay. Danef, how about the Templar? As Thalgar walks Minea back to her house, the two of them leaning on each other at Amalea's death. The church is going to get her ready and probably take her out to the place where they cremate people on this little island right here, late evening tomorrow, like right at sunset.
I'm going to go back to where the girl died and walk back to the tavern we were at and see if there are any food vendors in between those 2 points to try to figure out where she got poisoned.
You could do that. You could, follow Minea and Thalgar back, and there's probably a couple vendors out. On the corner is the tavern bar that is owned by Rasto, but there's probably, carts as people are staggering home after a day's work. Roll probably cunning. How do you go about it?
By punching Gene in the face first, because he knows this is my favorite role. Well, I start by going exactly to where the girl died. I turn around and I start walking back slowly to the tavern, looking to see, where the vendors, if there are still any vendors open, and if not, I'll look for fruit or food or whatever that might have dropped from the vendor and is like basically beginning to decompose. Because, if you're selling food, somebody probably dropped something nearby, and it's not like people are going to clean up after themselves when they leave their, if they pack up everything and leave, they're not going to clean the streets. So I'm looking for either open vendor stalls that look like they're going to sell food, or I'll look for the remains of food that might have gotten sold earlier in the day.
Yeah, there's 2 vendors. There's one that's probably got, a small little brazier fire that has meat on a stick, and you see that some of it get dropped, and, a stray dog comes and eats it, and, and it's shushed away and runs down the thing, and probably watch that dog for a while, and, then it's just laying in the square, and it looks completely normal. And then you see another one that's probably selling baked goods, and there's got a fair number of people around that get her baked goods, and everything seems relatively normal. You don't see anything specific. You don't really see anyone spitting out food from either of the vendors. It looks like they're fairly well trafficked. None of them are, they're just selling that kind of shish kebab stuff on the one, and then, bread and muffins on the other side. And they do a fairly brisk business as people are walking home, and you don't get any sense that anything's out of the ordinary. You probably circle back and check on that dog who ate the meat that fell off, and it looks perfectly fine later in the evening, and you probably see that same dog the next morning. So it didn't die, but Danef really doesn't find anything.
It occurs to me that we assume the girl was the target, but it might not have been that cut and dry. It might have been, maybe somebody else was a target. Maybe the target wasn't a person, but like to put a rival vendor in disrepute. So I'm going to go with the assumption the girl was the target, but I'm going to pay attention, maybe it was a way to discredit a food vendor or something like that. So I'll just look for anything that just, strikes my fancies being out of the ordinary. I doubt I'm going to find anything, but I got, nothing else to do right now. So
right. You probably see the bread woman pick up a rock and throw it at the shish kebab man. They're in competition necessarily, but that's, the extent of it, really. They're obviously on opposite sides of the street, the shish kebab man and the bread vendor, and they yell out about their wares, but, and they oddly laugh and smile about it, even though you can see that their eyes aren't necessarily laughing and smiling at it, because there are joy guards around. And so, I can't show too much this favor.
I'm going to go to both of them, describe the girl, and ask if either had seen that girl this evening, and if either of them had sold her any food.
The bread lady looks at you and goes, well, buy some bread and I can tell you, half a thaler, or, 10 shillings.
Well,
Otherwise, nope.
that's a great idea, excepting this girl was poisoned, and if you're not willing to, answer my questions, I'm going to have to assume she was poisoned here, because that just makes sense, and then I'll have to ask around
She
and
looks at
remind
you and
people
she,
that
eyes narrow, and she raises her hand. She raises her hand up high and makes eye contact with one of the joy guards.
I put a big old smile on my face.
Do you do anything else, Dana?
No, I just stand there with a big smile on my face, looking at this woman, and then I grit my
looks at you
teeth
and
slightly, and I whisper through my gritted teeth, "I can play this game.
You want to buy some bread?
I want to find out who poisoned my friend."
The joy guard comes over and goes, yes, Slyla, what do you want? This man is
Good evening,
asking
great.
me- He's asking me about a dead woman. The joy guard looks at her and goes, a dead woman? Yes, he's asking all these questions that are not appropriate for good mood. And the joy guard looks at you and goes, sir?
I'm
Is this
sorry,
the
I was
truth?
trying to get an answer, and this woman tried to rip me off.
I was just trying to sell him bread.
Right, and
joy-
if I
joy
refused
guard
to
looked
buy
at
her
you.
bed, she wouldn't tell me about who killed my friend as much as she was able. And, well, I just figured that was very unfriendly of her.
She looks at the woman and goes, are you being unfriendly? And she goes, he's asking me if I know someone was killed. I'm just a bread maker and seller. Of course not. I'm not
But you
being
didn't sell
unfriendly.
my friend any
It's a
bread.
morbid. I see lots of people. Would you like some of my bread? You should try it. If you eat it, you will know right away whether I poisoned your friend.
Oh, well, I appreciate your offer, and I say it with a big old smile on my face. But I'm busy. I need to find who poisoned my friend so I can give them the joy of me, talking to them.
The joy guard goes, that's a good idea. Just go about your business with a bright step.
Exactly, sir. I appreciate your advice.
What does Dana do next as the joy guard is watching?
I go across the street to Shish Kebab.
Yeah, you see the joy guard just kind of standing there with the bread maker and looking down at the bread maker, watching what you're doing. What do you do when you make the shish kebab place?
Mr. Bob, did you sell
Yes.
some food to a
5
friend
shillings.
of mine earlier today?
He looks at you and goes, well, I've sold lots of food to lots of people.
I described
Do
the
you
girl.
have many friends? He goes, that could be anyone. Would you like some? A stick. 5 shillings a stick.
Sadly, I need to focus on finding people who are doing harm to our neighbors.
Oh, well, good on you then. I am here selling sticks of meat. If you don't want a stick, please kindly move away so that the other people can come up to my cart.
I give him a smile and nod my head and say, the next time I come by, if I buy food, it will not be from your bread-making associate. I will come by from you, Mr. Bob.
He winks at you. Good. I don't like her bread either.
Yes, her
Sometimes
bread.
she makes savory bread with tomatoes and nuts, and it takes my
That's
business away.
That's
He
just
says with a
crazy.
smile. Here, you should try one. I'll give you one for free. Just this time. And you
Do
can
me a
tell
favor,
everyone.
if you wouldn't mind. Instead, the next time you see a child that looks hungry, offer it to them, please.
Oh, certainly. Good
That
man,
would spread some
certainly.
serious joy. I appreciate your
He
time, though.
laughs at you. Okay. So, Dane, if you try to find out something, but you really don't find out
I didn't
anything.
expect to, is the worst part of it.
Falgard, Midnea back to her room and lays her in her threadbare kind of bed, and she rapidly falls asleep, probably under some influence of whatever bag he gave her. Vulgaris, I imagine you're going to retire until morning. You got a very early morning for your job offer at first
Yes.
light. It's most goblins. Okay. And what we will probably do is end there for today and pick it up at the dawn of the next day when Vulgaris goes to his job and the group decides what to do about the information they learned. Any questions for me?
No, thanks, Gene.
Yeah, thank you.
Falgar, Mr. Hitachi, you have any questions about your character?
I think I need to feel him a little bit more for next session. And
Don't do it in public. The Joy Guard will arrest you.